to our hostess, who is Davina Whitwell. She's the Employability Service Manager, and she's been at CUSU for 6 years. Now, I get to work with Davina all the time. She is amazing. She runs some of the most innovative services I've seen in the student movement, and I've been in it since the beginning of the 21st century. And that's all I'm going to say. So Davina is a wealth of knowledge. She is the Employability Services Manager, and it's really a big program, bigger than lots of other unions. So do access all of her knowledge that she's got to be able to give for you today. One of the reasons I joined CUSU was because of the program that she runs, which is the running academic modules program. It's really innovative, it's really forward thinking, and it's great to get the stuff into the credit bearing academic program. With all that said, I'm not going to give away any more of Davina's secrets of what she does, but I am going to pass over to her. If you do have any questions, please use the Q&A function in the box below, or just pop them in the chat, and I will then curate them for Davina. So once again, Davina Whitwell, Employability Services Manager, over to you.
Thank you very much. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to be able to actually follow that introduction and do it justice, but I will definitely do my best. So as James said, thank you very much for the introduction. My name is Davina Whitwell, and I have been working for the Students' Union for 6 years. The aim of today's session, I've got people in the waiting room. The aim of today's session is to allow you to understand about the modules that we run and how we get an income from that. Consider some of the conflicts that there might be with the union running an activity like this, and maybe look at some options for yourselves, and obviously answer any questions that you might have towards the end. So just a little bit about me, my history and my background. I started teaching in a secondary school in Coventry back in 2004, teaching business studies and IT. And although I thoroughly enjoyed my time as a teacher, after 10 years, I decided it was time to do something different. So just under 6 years ago, I started working for the Students' Union. If I'm being honest with you, I actually believe it's bang on 6 months when I had my interview, because I remember starting October half term, August bank holiday weekend. So I believe it would have been around now that I would have been interviewed by Paul Burt. So after a change in career, settled into the Students' Union, and I've had a variety of different roles since being here. So I started off, because of my experience in schools, organising schools placements and opportunities for students, so that if they are interested in PGCE or going on working with children and young people, that's what they were able to do as a result of the opportunities we provided. So during that time, obviously the modules developed, and after 2 years I became the placement and module manager, and then about 18 months ago I became the Employability Services Manager, and I'll kind of talk you through the growth that we have had during that time. If my slides will move on. Oh, so typical. There you go. This is a little bit about our history. We started with the Advantage module programme back in 2006. So this was way before my time. But the university, you know, really believed in employability and the benefits that it should have and the place that it should have with students whilst they're studying. It started as the Employability Learning Programme with a number of modules, and it was actually the Students' Union that were part of that working group to start the first few modules. And I believe back then we started with the schools modules, so opportunities in schools, volunteering in the community, and sports and societies. So using that as a way of training and just allowing students to explore what they can through those 3 options. So in 2011, the employability learning programme actually was tied in with the business faculty, because as I'm sure you can imagine, there's a lot of behind the scenes sort of academic regulations that need to go along with modules being accredited. So it was really important for the modules that was taught by the Students' Union to have some academic support. So we joined forces with the business faculty to get some standardisation with marking and paperwork, etc. So in 2013, there was about 300 students over the 3 modules that I'd mentioned before. And during that time, between 2013 and 2015, a variety of different modules were developed. I'll go on to what those modules are a little bit later. But it became really apparent that not only ourselves, but other professional services maybe weren't getting the service that they needed from the faculties. And there were lots and lots of different groups across the university that were running these standalone modules. So a central registry board was created. This allowed some support really tailored to those of us who run just modules rather than courses. Around that time, we increased our number of staff. So we, in 2016, we had 3 full-time members of staff. We recruited another 2 in 2017, and then we were renamed the employability team for the Students' Union. In 2019, we hit our mark, which obviously I was ecstatic about, over 1,000 students taking the variety of modules that we have on offer. And at that point, there were somewhere in the region of 15, 16 different types. So the way we are now, we have 4 full-time members of staff and 3 part-time lecturers / teachers. So the Advantage scheme, as I've mentioned, it's not unique to us. It is a scheme that is run across the university, and every undergraduate student has to take part, apart from those who have some sort of professional practice. So those who are maybe in law or nursing wouldn't have to take the Advantage scheme because they are getting their employability options in another way. There is a choice of over 230, I've put courses there, but I do mean modules, and they really do vary, but they're grouped into 7 categories. Some are around professional practice, some are around international opportunities, technology, and the list goes on. And they are worth 10 credits. And as a student who is eligible to take an Advantage module, you would have 3 opportunities through your each level, gaining 10 credits each time. And as I say, the university really values that because they have, I guess, carved out a session or 2 sessions on each timetable for every student to make sure that they spend the time dedicated to this scheme. So these are the range of modules that we offer, and I've just put the broad sort of subject areas just to kind of give you an understanding of what we do. So I had mentioned before, volunteering in the community, placements in schools and sports and societies. These were probably our most long-standing modules, the ones that started back in 2006. We then went on and developed Students' Union Work Experience module, which allows students to get some first-hand experience being part of the SU, and they would have a placement with a department and would be set appropriate tasks based on their interest levels. Because of the placement programme or the placement in school programme that we were developing, we were finding there were lots of students who were interested in extracurricular activities. So not necessarily just your typical taught subjects, but the things that would happen at break times, lunch times, and after school. So we developed a module to link in with that to allow students to go in and showcase the skills that they have within schools. Probably our greatest achievement was our sign language skills modules, which we developed, I want to say 2016, 17 now. this is by far our most popular module. The first year we were only planning on running 4 separate occurrences, and actually we ended up upping it to 8, and those modules were actually completely full after 5 seconds. So it was amazing, absolutely amazing to see how many students were really interested in sign language skills, and the programme has developed, offering now not just an introductory level but also an intermediate level. We haven't yet gone on to the advanced, because we believe that if students are going to take the advanced level, that they should have a recognised qualification that's above and beyond their degree. And with advantage timing, it's not quite working because of the way that the blocking is and the hours that an organisation would need students to complete in order to get that accreditation or additional accreditation. So we are working on the advanced, and we do have lots of students that are desperate to get that qualification. So all being well, we might be able to offer that sooner rather than later. Our most recent addition for our modules is our career enhancing modules. So our careers department offered a variety of modules, and because of changes and refocusing priorities, they are no longer able to teach. So we have now taken on some of their modules, and we're developing them to fit our styles. Employability is the key factor with all of the things that we do. So actually having a suite of modules that are really focused on students, enhancing their career is just ideal for us. I have ranked them in order of age, so you can see, kind of the development that has taken place over time. Obviously, the modules are designed to be broadly enough that any student from any faculty can participate, whether they've got previous experience in any of these areas or not, because that is the whole purpose of the scheme. It's not supposed to be for a particular faculty or a particular type. The whole scheme across the university has to be inclusive, so that anybody from any faculty can participate. So in order to staff this appropriately, we need some internal and external support. So at the moment, we would suggest that, having an administrator is key. There's so much in terms of paperwork that needs to be completed in order to comply with university regulations. The list goes on. We do e-module boxes. So having an administrator that can help support the team and pull all of those things together is really vital. You've got me as the employability services manager, and I guess the lead of the project. And last year we actually employed somebody as an academic development lead. Now that's not necessarily their title, they are the employability services assistant manager, but the role is for them to develop the team of lecturers to make sure that they're keeping up with university standards and really developing that academic integrity. And then obviously we would need some lecturers, of which we have, as I've mentioned, 2 that are full-time that teach, myself in there as support and cover if need be, and then 3 additional part-time members of staff. The external support that we require to run this programme is our external examiners. So once we've done our marking, our internal moderation, all of that has to go off and it has to be externally examined. Again, it's all about academic integrity. They are external to the university, so there's no conflict of interest, and they really do tell us how it is. If they believe that our marks are incorrect, not that that's ever happened, but if they feel that we maybe need to review our assessment practices, then that is what happens. As I've mentioned before, we have the Central Registry Board, which is a board that then signs off and ratifies students' marks, making sure that we've done all of our checking so that there are no mistakes. But we also have some independent academic advisors. So when we come to design any new modules, we do need to send that off to be approved. And again, that would be somebody completely external to the university, but couldn't be our external examiners either. And so anytime that we develop any of our new modules, we send those over to people that we found through our networks, really through Gist Mail or opportunities like this, where we know that there are similar types of activities happening in other universities, and those individuals are paid for the support that they give us. But it's important to make sure, and actually all modules can't be approved unless you've got that independent academic advice and a report that states exactly what they feel and believe in terms of assessment, module content, and, you know, again, that academic integrity. Sorry if I'm going too fast. So I've mentioned academic validation a few times. So as with any other module or course, as I say, we don't run courses, so I'll talk about that a little bit later. But we need to have a working group. So we have conversations around developments with Advantage, any new policies, any new procedures. Obviously now we are doing a lot of our work online because it's going to be very limited in terms of face-to-face contact. So the working group has proved really valuable to allow us to explore some of the things as a faculty would, bringing together lots of different expertise, I'd say, from around the university. We have a board of study each term, which is where our marks are presented, and we discuss any issues that might have occurred, whether that be IT, you know, issues with staffing, and then our marks are ratified each term. We have an exam board 3 times a year, and again, we do similar sort of activities within that. As I've said, the external examiners approve any internal module changes, so anything that we decide to change needs to go to our externals, and as I've mentioned before, our external expert to review any new modules. All of our teaching staff have either had a history of teaching or training, but the university requires that anybody, and that's including hourly paid lecturers, complete their postgraduate certificate. It's called an MO1, although I think it's now recently changed. It's got a code that begins with a 7 because we're doing levels. But it is an academic qualification, and it's an introduction to teaching in higher education. It gives every person a foundation in teaching and delivering material. It looks at pedagogy, technology within teaching, and it gives anybody teaching a really good understanding. It's a great qualification to have. It's now blended, so you do get a combination of online and face-to-face delivery, but everybody has to complete that within their first year, and I am proud to say everybody within our team has completed their MO1. So obviously you couldn't teach any module or course without going through an evaluation process, because students' feedback is key to success. So at the end, or the middle to the end of each term, a module evaluation questionnaire is delivered, and this gets anonymous feedback from the students about how they feel the module has been delivered. It talks about assessment and being part of an academic community. This gives us an opportunity, obviously, to review. Now, as we mentioned, because we are standalone modules rather than courses, we don't get to track our students through a 3-year journey. If our students start with us at level 1, if I use the schools module, for example, we might have them go through level 1, level 2 and level 3 with us. However, they might do a schools module year 1, they might choose a language module year 2, and then they might come back to us year 3. So although we get that feedback, it's really hard to be able to have an impact on the students that we've already taught, because we don't continue. So sometimes we change and make development, but it's not relevant for the new cohort of students coming in. But it does allow us to see if there are some common themes within each term and each year. So it does prove really useful. Tutors and module leaders have to receive 80% satisfaction rate on each question. And if they don't, we obviously have a conversation, try and see if we can, improve our services as a result and move on from there. Obviously, any complaints and issues are raised through the faculty because the student belongs to the faculty rather than us within the Central Registry Board. So that's part of our evaluation process. We have trialled within the Advantage system a students rep opportunity, because as you can imagine, with most courses there is student representation and students get the opportunity to input. It doesn't happen in the same way within Advantage, although it has been trialled, and it is a system that is still evolving. I was going to say revolving then, but I meant evolving. There is a course quality evaluation process at the end of each term known as the CQEM, and it basically makes sure that the quality of all courses, and again I use that term course, is appropriate. It allows for action planning and for us to again make improvements. Now we have to sit in with the university system, which is the course quality enhancement process. However, because we're not courses, it doesn't quite fit. So we are actually developing, with the help of the Central Registry Board, tweaking the document so it's more fit for purpose. But again, all of these systems help us to improve and evaluate the service that we're delivering. So, as I'm sure you can imagine, each year we think about what our strengths are, what the weaknesses might be, and how we can develop in the future. So I've just given you a few examples here. Now, obviously the income, which is what most of you are here to understand, we are paid £770 per head. Now that is gross. If you imagine, a student fee is £9,500. There's 120 credits, and we then get 10 of those credits, which is £770 worth. There is an instant tax for heating, lighting, rooms, etc. of 40% that is taken off the top. And then we also pay the Central Registry Board for their services at £41 per head. But once those costs are removed, you can see that there is a very healthy profit that is left over. Now, all of our staffing costs and equipment, etc., training, comes out of that, but it does allow for a very healthy revenue, let's say, as a result of the work that we do. We've got evidence of our student engagement as a result of students interacting with the modules, and students therefore are credited. As I mentioned, a student doesn't have to be a member of the Students' Union in order to take our modules, but it does make sense. And actually, if we've had students with us for a year, we then make them aware of the modules that are on offer. So if they're going to continue with Students' Union activity, they can then get credits for that. So therefore, it's a bit of a win-win. You do know your income 4 months beforehand. The Advantage sign-up window happens in April. So April 2020, we will know exactly where we are for September 2020 for our second and our third year. Our first year students obviously sign up when they arrive in October. So some of the weaknesses, obviously we need those qualified staff, but we make sure that when we're going through our interview process, people have got a history of delivering. We can't really do it without qualified staff, and there is a cost that's involved in that. Because of the way that Advantage is run, if staff are unwell, we don't have much flexibility. However, some of the, benefits of going through a pandemic, if you want to look at it that way, is we've had to consider the way that we deliver our modules, which means that actually we're future-proofing ourselves by pre-recording and thinking about cover opportunities. Now, we have said that there might be conflicts of interest, and that's something that I will discuss a little bit later on. We do have a limited timetable structure. So if you imagine a first year student could take an advantage module once a term, but only one term. So if they have 3 terms, they choose one of those. And there are 2 time slots. They can't attend both time slots, but there are only 2 time slots each year that are free for advantage. So if we said Monday 9 till 11 and a Friday 2 till 4. So if you are a first year student taking an advantage module, you can only take it in one of those slots in one term. So if you think about that in terms of staffing, if we've got a number of level 1 modules, there's only 2 opportunities that can be taught. So it does make it very difficult in terms of being able to staff things most appropriately, because there are very limited opportunities for flexibility. However, as I'm sure you can appreciate, there are lots of opportunities that we've been able to gain as a result. We develop our engagement, we increase our income with a low risk base. We get to we get to deliver high quality training to other SUs, which is something that maybe we'll talk about towards the end. And you know, the global pandemic that has occurred has actually proven to be an opportunity. I can't say enough how proud I am of the team and how they've adapted so quickly to provide support for our students, where we were still teaching when the pandemic started. And the second the university closed its doors, our students still needed that support. So to be able to do that, you know, was nothing short of incredible. But as I say, it provided a number of opportunities with our own flexibility, our own adaptability, and exploring technology to be able to support our students at a much quicker rate than we ever imagined possible. Now, yes, there are some threats that we may have to consider. As we can appreciate, universities change and adapt based to the demand and the market that they have, and the scheme might end, or our popularity might change. We could have poor feedback, which would then impact on the number of students who would want to come back to us, and poor succession planning, as we've mentioned about the limited timetable structure. If we don't think about people moving on, there's a lot of knowledge and wisdom that goes. And obviously the global pandemic is definitely a threat. You know, the number of students that may be coming to the university might change, so obviously all of those things will have a massive impact. But so far so good. You know, we're very happy with everything that we've been able to achieve so far. And as I say, I can't thank my team enough for the work that they have kind of displayed during this period. For some reason, this is now not moving. Okay, so I had mentioned the conflict of interest. And I suppose it's not standard practice for a students' union to teach. Our advice centre sits within the SU, and therefore, as I'm sure you can appreciate, how can our advice centre help and support students on academic issues when, you know, we are actually delivering some of those possible academic issues. As far as we're concerned, and up until this point, we haven't had any major issues. We deliver our modules to the best of our ability. We try and give our students the advice and support that they need, but the advice centre acts very independently to us, and we would not put ourselves or our students in a situation where there would be a conflict. We have mentioned the lack of the rep system, but because of the other ways that we are evaluated, we do believe that we get the feedback that we need in order to improve our services and make sure that we are delivering the best opportunities for our students. It is something that we are addressing, but as I said, a lot of information comes back through the MEQ, but it might be something that you might want to ask a few questions on as we come to the end of the session. So this is our almost final slide. Just, you know, maybe in the Q&A or in the chat, have a think about how you might be able to design your own module. Is there some similarities that you see with the work that we do, with the types of activities that you do? Could you see that there would be a way for your university to implement an employability programme where students get those credits? Is that something that you would consider? So if you had the chance to design a module that was credit bearing, what would you do? So I am coming to the end of my presentation. I have spoken consistently for quite some time, which I am very good at, I must admit. And as you said, if you'd like to ask any questions, please feel free. What I meant to do, which I know that I haven't done now that we've come to the end of this, is put my email address on here, because we'll have limited time to ask those questions, but maybe as the questions are coming through, I can just jot it down, or you can find out from our website, from the CUSU.org website, if anybody has got any further questions that we aren't able to tackle today, please feel free to get in touch. I'm more than happy to help. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you've gained something as a result of what I've shared with you today. And if there's anything you think I've missed or anything else that you'd like to add, just let me know and I'll do my best to answer your questions. Thank you.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Davina. We've got a couple of questions coming through. What I'll say is, as someone who doesn't work in this department, I work miles and miles away, literally and metaphorically. That having a team that actually does teaching really allows you to understand how teaching happens. So when you're doing your student voice work, you know, we understand that the practicalities of some of these things as well. And so that innate learning that we have and knowledge is also really important to the rest of the union and its activities. So it's a really, I really can't recommend this as a piece of work enough to you all. And also it's got great financial returns as well. So we've got a couple of questions. So we've got one from Sharon Hughes. Hi, Sharon. Sharon says she wonders how the project kick-started. Was it a one course at a time approach? Ah, Sharon's there. Do you want to ask yourself, Sharon?
Hi, that was just phenomenal. And I know you guys are, it's so good. And we've sort of dipped our toe into it, but very, very informally, like doing barista training and stuff. But we have a very different relationship with our universities than you guys have. The students' unions are autonomous from the college. We receive separate funding. So it's slightly more acrimonious. We wouldn't really be seen as a department within the college. So I was just wondering, when you were starting, was it like somebody thought, you know what, let's do a quick coding class and see how that goes, but then it like morphed into, actually we've enough here to run a program? Or was it like that you were like, this is an idea, but it needs to be resourced, so we're going to go in with a full proposal?
I mean, I'd love to be able to answer that fully, because the programme started in 2006, which was way before my time. But to my understanding, because of the work that the Students' Union was conducting at the time, there was opportunities, or I guess there was a hole where students would, let's say if we use volunteering in the community, for example, students would go out, they would volunteer, and getting that feedback and getting students to articulate the skills that they had gained as a result was a bit of a challenge. I think the university was looking at employability as a project. How do we embed employability within our degree programme more successfully? And obviously, as I say, the Students' Union were kind of looking at a similar sort of thing. So I think that's how it all started, with that working group of, right, we need to embed employability more readily within our degree programme. The Students' Union are doing some great work and students are gaining those skills. How can we kind of work together to do that? So I know back in 2006, the first few modules that were on the Advantage scheme were the Students' Union and the university, and then it developed from there. faculties were then encouraged to do more in terms of employability and to offer different modules. So as I mentioned, 230 across the whole of the university. I think one thing that I didn't maybe talk about well enough is the fact that it's not just faculties, it's also professional services. So the library, the DMLL, which is our disruptive media learning lab, as well as the Centre for Academic Writing, all of these different services see those opportunities where students come to them for information, advice and support. And you can see, actually, we can put this in a really nice framework that's on their timetable, which gives them the space to be able to achieve.
Sharon,
I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, as well as it can. It's, I suppose, it's that employability. So I'd be interested in how that started, but I appreciate there's other people here as well. So I might drop an email.
Which union are you from, Sharon?
So we're with the TU, Technological University Dublin. So we're a brand new university made up of 3 old Institute of Technologies. So we've been going through a massive act at the moment. So
great. And did you also want to ask quickly
did students pay? Because over here students pay separately for students' unions. So I just wondered, did they make a financial contribution to the modules?
So it all comes out of their fees. So it's as I think I mentioned briefly, if the fees are 9,500 and they have to achieve 120 credits within the year, those 10 credits, that element is kind of siphoned off, let's say, and that's what we are paid for our service. So the students don't physically pay, but it does come out of their degree funding.
So the college fund you for the amount, and is that a per head funding or?
It is, yeah.
Thank you.
No, that's fine.
Okay, on to the next question that we have, which is from Emma W from Bath Spa. Emma, do you want to ask it yourself, or would you like me to ask it? How are we going to get you to communicate that to me?
She said her mic's not working.
Okay, cool. So Emma said, it's been really interesting. Has this impacted the rest of the SU? For instance, helping to develop training for student reps or committee members? Have there been other advantages?
I mean, it's interesting that you say that. One of the things that we are now working on is coming together more closely. So way back when some of these modules were developed, they were developed with our membership services manager, who had a real understanding of what was happening within the Students' Union. We are looking at different types of training and how we can sort of support the Students' Union in making the training more effective, using technology, using our expertise, and really helping with that student experience. So yes, it definitely has had those benefits, and it is a project. Really weirdly, I sent the email only yesterday, so we are kind of, pulling a working group together to look at training. So yes, it's definitely had that impact.
Yeah, and I mean, for just someone who sits on the outside of this, it's really good to see, we all talk about how do we hold on to our society people and make them better in the pathways, and this actually gives real opportunity and real contextualization for that, and it's all credit bearing, and that's the brilliant thing. Credit bearing modules which are supporting co-curricular are an amazing achievement, and I think that we should all be looking at this, because we know the skills that students learn outside of the classroom are equally or more important than some of those that they learn in the classroom. And I think there's a real good argument here for your officers to get into, their academic committees and start making this argument and saying, Coventry are doing this, Westminster, I think, do this as well. A couple of other places are. Why aren't we? Like, you're all talking about developing skills for our students. Students love developing their skills through doing, and this is a real opportunity to grow the union, to grow the work that is done, and allow students practical hands-on experience that supports the learning community we're part of. So it's brilliant. I really love it.
I can tell.
So James Lindsay, hiya James, how you doing? How's Exeter? Do you want to? Hiya buddy, how you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Thanks for that. That's really helpful and really insightful. So my question is around the sort of careers service. At Exeter, we have called Career Zone, and they, being blunt, monopolise employability provision on campus and want everything to kind of go through their department. I kind of wondered whether that was the same for you, or whether actually this programme is the sort of distribution of that responsibility back to departments, and kind of how, and if it is, how do they kind of take that up? Is it a small, other registry board, is it a small number of involved partners, or is it actually quite widespread through the university and everyone gets on board, that sort of thing? And my other question would be just, what's your total spend in this area, just in terms of budget, and what expenditure against income? But that's a really boring question.
James wants to know how much money we make.
I wouldn't be able to answer that well, but I can give you a rough idea, but without kind of looking at all the pennies, it'd be tricky. So going back to the original question around the careers, so the Advantage scheme actually sat within the careers department. So back in 2006, it was the head of careers and the Students' Union, along with I'd like to say Ian Dunn, but don't quote me. So I'll provide, well, he would have been Vice Chancellor then, but don't quote me. But essentially, there were a team of individuals that all got together, and it's the careers was the careers department responsibility to manage the Advantage scheme. So in terms of employability, what we always say is, although we have employability as our title, we do not do the same things as the careers department. We do have some contact, obviously, with external agencies, just because of the nature of the modules going into schools, going into community organisations, but we do very different services. But they lead the programme and we support them. So essentially, we're like an outside agency that is brought in to deliver a specific set of modules that couldn't be delivered, and I use the term couldn't very loosely because they probably could, but couldn't be delivered elsewhere. You asked the question about the Central Registry Board and who sits on it. So I did mention some of the different professional services, but we do have members from different faculties that come into the Central Registry Board as well to help and support, because the CRB really is, it's the pockets of individuals and professional services that deliver these modules that don't sit within a faculty. So we're not part of the Faculty of Business and Law, we're the Students' Union. The Centre for Academic Writing is there for all students, and they don't sit within one specific faculty. So the Central Registry Board was brought together to bring those non-traditional teaching areas together to allow them to get the support that they need in order to be able to deliver modules most appropriately and have that academic rigour that is required in order for them to continue. So I hope I've answered that first bit. With regards to the total spend, so as I mentioned, we get £770 per head, so each student, and there is an instant 40% tax that the university takes off. So again, my maths is rubbish, but let's say that leaves us with about £450-ish. What I wouldn't be able to tell you is the per head spend for staffing costs, but you can imagine, we have to pay staff in the same way. I would say because when I look at my figures, I look at what we make. So in a year, we could, once our initial costs are sort of accounted for, we could have around 460,000, but obviously that is not taking into consideration staffing costs, and staffing costs sit separately to me. So if that gives you an idea, if you then think about the number of staff that it might take to run it, how much you would pay them, and then deduct that would probably give you a good indication.
Just to flag, so it's 400k ish, and we've got how many full-time and how many part-timers?
So we've got, so if I include myself in that, we've got a full-time administrator, we've got our assistant manager, a full-time lecturer, and then myself. So 4 full-time members of staff, and then we've got 3 part-time members of staff. And they do about between 20 and 25 hours, depending on the contract that they're on.
Super. So in a nutshell, James, it's an income generator.
Yeah.
I think we can clearly say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Can't say any more than yeah.
Yeah. So Davina, thank you very much. We've got no more questions for you.
That's all right.
I've popped Davina's email in the chat. So if you want to get in contact with her, pick her brains. She's really lovely.
Most of the
super
time.
busy. No, all the time. She's super busy, but she always gets back to you, and she's amazing, running lots and lots of services and pivoting to digital during a pandemic with all the staff team everywhere has been amazing. Thank you all very much for coming along this morning.
Just very quickly, just before we go, one of the things that we did mention was around kind of online training and development, and that is kind of the next phase for this project. So if you are considering doing anything around training and you'd like to have a conversation with us about, you know, our online platform, hopefully when we do this next year, I can then have a conversation with you about how that's developed and what that project looks like. But we are starting, and we're more than happy to support any students' unions with that. So, you know, give us a shout. We're more than happy to help. But thank you for listening.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. Right, everyone, if you've got nothing else to do over the next hour, there's a UK Parliament talk that I'm just about to go and host. So come and join us there at 12:30. So go grab a cup of tea. Davina, thank you very much. Thanks everyone for coming along. And you'll be able to watch this on catch up in about 24 hours time. See you everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.